Hi, I'm Zoe from Art K, and today I'm going to show you how to make some Andy Warhol pop art cupcakes. We're going to use acrylic paints to paint one cupcake together, and then you can watch me paint the rest while you paint along. We use paintbrushes and sponges and other printing materials such as cardboard to create some of the effects in here, so I hope you enjoy it. So here I have a piece of paper. It's thicker sketchbook paper, not just printer paper, but if you have something like acrylic paper or even card, that would be the best. However, we are using sketchbook paper for now. I've got with me a ruler, a pencil, and an eraser. Some acrylic paint. I've just chosen 4 colors: turquoise, pink, yellow, and white. You can choose any colors you want. It's okay if they're different to mine. And I've got some water, some brushes, and a few various things to try some new techniques. We've got a sponge. You can use a little piece of any house sponge, and some cardboard. We're gonna play with using the inside of this cardboard as printing. Like that. So we're going to start by making a square. I'm going to measure, let's see, 7 again. So I've just measured 7 on a few different points so I can make a nice straight line. Now I've got my nice little square in the corner here. If it's easier for you, you could cut this square out and just paint from that, but I like to be able to test some of my paints on the side, so I'm going to leave this little scrap here. We will start by drawing out the cupcake. We want it to be nice and big, taking up as much of the square as possible. Sometimes I like to sketch out my shapes very, very lightly before pressing hard, just so that I know exactly where things are going. So I'm just going to put a really, really light curved line here so I know I want my cupcake to be about that big, and I want it to be to here. There we go. So I'm going to start by making a dot here and a dot here. This is where the top of the cupcake paper will go. So I'm going to put a nice curved line across there. And then I will go down on that side and down on that side. And now between here and here, we don't want a perfectly straight line, just something a little bit curved. That's okay. Now for the top, you can make it more rounded, you can make it a little bit bumpy, like it has more frosting on it, but what I think I'm going to do is start by putting a cherry on the top, as high up as I want my cupcake to be, and then do some little lines going down. So I have 1, 2, 3 curved lines here, and 1, 2, 3 curved lines here. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is, with the pencil, add in a little zigzag line under this straight one. So we want to go down, up, down, up, down, up, all the way across, and connect that one at the end. So we've divided it sort of into sections now. We have the cherry, we have the main frosting area, we have this little section, and then we have the cupcake paper at the bottom. So each of those are going to be different colors, as well as the background. Before we start painting, make sure you rub out any little pencil lines that don't need to be there. So I'm just going to clean up these lines. And if you're going to be using some light colors, it is worth also just making any of your lines a bit lighter. So I'm just going to rub them a little. You can still see them, but at least if we're using yellow paint, they won't show through. Okay. Now I'm going to start by painting the cupcake because we will be practicing some different printing techniques with the cardboard and sponging. And in case it gets in the background, we want to be able to fix that later. So we'll leave the background until the end and start by just painting some solid colors into each of these areas. So it's up to you to pick which colors you want. I have my 4 colors here. The white can probably be saved for the printing part. So I'm going to do turquoise for the bottom section. So we're going to paint the whole thing in nice and carefully. When I'm painting, it's really important that I keep my brush upright like this, especially when you're going into little sections that require a lot of precise movement. Make sure you get all the paint on both sides of your brush by going back and forth. And again, when you go up into these small sections, extra carefully with your brush like it's on its tippy toes. If your brush is too big, then you're going to have some problems. So I would recommend switching to a smaller brush if it's too big to get into those little sections. And when you do a line like at the bottom here, you need to make sure you turn your brush so that it's going in the same direction as your line. So if I'm painting up, my hand is like this. If I'm painting to the side, like this. If I'm painting down. So right now, since I'm going across the side, I'm holding my brush at this angle. You see that nice smooth line? Now I'm actually going to switch to my smaller brush, just because I think it's easier to get into those small areas. Always make sure you have enough paint on your brush. If you don't, it will leave some little scratchy lines that have spots in them, and you don't want that. You want a nice solid color everywhere. There we go. Anywhere where it's drying a bit uneven, like there, where it's lighter, I'm just going to add a bit more paint because we want a nice even color. And anywhere you make a mistake, we will be able to cover it up later, so don't worry. There we go. Next, let's do this area. I'm going to skip this one for now until this part is dry. I will not touch that spot. I might even leave it until after the printing, just in case I get any of the printing lines from the cardboard into that middle section. So let's do the yellow for the middle section and then the pink for the top. So again, as I get to the edges, I'm really careful to stay in the lines. If you're seeing any mixed colors in your painting, it may be because you didn't properly wipe off the paintbrush before starting to paint. I'm actually having that problem, and I can see now there's a tiny bit of turquoise here. So make sure you keep a paper towel or napkin nearby, and you can use that to really make sure you wipe off your previous color. That should be better. We're going to be adding some different sponging and stamping and anything we can to the frosting area, so it won't stay fully yellow like this. There we go. Okay, make sure you always rinse off your brush in between colors, and like we said before, you can dry it on a paper towel as well. So last, we can use the pink for our little cherry on top. There we go. Okay, now would be a good time to blow dry your work, and if it's difficult for you to paint two colors near each other this way, you could also blow dry between the yellow and the pink. I'm going to blow dry mine now, and then when it's fully dry, I will start doing some of those printing techniques. You can use a hair dryer for this, which is really simple and easy, and you should have one at home.
Hi, I'm Pip from Arcade Mainstone. I hope you're enjoying your video you're working through. We're just going to stop and play a little game for a minute. So this one is a visual memory game. What I want you to do is look at all of the fruit that I've got up on the wall and try and remember it as carefully as you can, because in a minute I'm going to take one of them away and I want you to try and remember which one it is. Okay? So once you've remembered which picture that I've taken away, I want you to draw it on a piece of paper in front of you. So if you haven't got a piece of paper, just pause me quickly and then you can go and grab one. Okay, you've got 3 more seconds to look at the fruit in front of you. 3, 2, 1, and close your eyes. And open your eyes again. I've jumbled them up a little bit as well to make it extra tricky. So, have a think, which fruit do you think's missing? Once you've worked it out, draw it on your piece of paper. Try and remember it as carefully as you can. Hopefully you're nearly done. Okay, the fruit that I took down from the wall was a peach. Hopefully you've got a peach on your piece of paper. Very well done.
Okay, so now my cupcake is dry, and before you start doing any of your sponging or printing, I don't want you to practice directly on your painting, but practice in this little side area or on a scrap piece of paper let's take a bit of pink with the sponge. You don't want too much on here. If it's a huge lump of paint, then this is just going to leave a big splodgy stain and it won't be as beautiful with all of the different spots inside of the sponge there. So what you want to do is put a bit on the side here to just practice and see what it will look like. That's good. You see, if I get way too much, it will be one big spot like that, so you don't want that. So we practice a little on the side to make sure it's how we'd like it. And once you're ready, we'll do some pink sponging on the center here. So be very careful not to go all the way out to the edge. It's absolutely fine to leave a little border. There we go. Now that part is done. Afterwards, we can add some sprinkles by putting some paint on the edge of a brush. At the back of the brush like this, you could use it to dip inside and put some dots on top. So we can do that later on when that's a bit more dry. Next comes the cardboard. So we have this piece from before. Just going to rip it. I think it's much too big. So we want these lines to go up and down so that they make stripes in the bottom here. So I'm going to rip this in half, measure it to make sure it's not too tall and that it will fit nicely inside of there. You might need help ripping it into the perfect shape, or you could use scissors. So I think that would work nicely. So if I stamp it like this, I stay inside. I might just rip this piece off so I have a nice small square. Now we're going to use white. So it's very important that your brush is fully clean so that none of the other paints contaminate your beautiful white. We will paint some of it onto the stripes. And then make sure it's placed the way you want it, vertical lines up and down. Make sure you press all over and lift it. That's nice. What's nice about printing is the lines will never be perfectly even, so it will always create a more interesting texture than if you were to just paint lines. Let's do that again. Good, we'll just keep doing that. Now, I actually think I'm going to need to rip this again. Make sure it's small enough to fit in those smaller gaps. Trying to just get all of those little areas filled in. Cool. Now, we need to go back in and fill that middle section. I think I'm going to use the pink because it would be nice to have a bit of balanced pink up here and down here. Again, you want to use a nice small brush for this part to make sure that you can fit inside the small places. I'm going to switch to a really tiny one. Never paint with a big clump like this on your brush. It will be too hard to control. So you need to wipe it off and make sure that you only have paint on the tip. And if you do paint over the turquoise or the yellow, we can always go back and fix that. Just always wait until the paint is dry before you go back to fix it, because otherwise you'll just end up mixing two colors into each other. For example, if I got pink on the yellow and then immediately I tried to put yellow on top of that pink, I would just make an orange instead of fixing it. There we go. So now that that's done, we can go back and add a few details like the sprinkles. Make sure this is fully dry before you start. I'm going to go blow dry mine one more time before adding in any of those details, and then we can get started on the background. Okay, now that everything is dry, we can start to add on some small details. I'm going to use the back of this paintbrush to make a little dot in my cherry to give it that little shine. And then I can do the same thing with the white paint inside of my cupcake for some little round sprinkles. What's nice about using the back of the brush is you can get a nice round shape. When you use the front of the brush, it's harder to get the roundness. Sometimes if you press too hard, it becomes more of a rectangle or a triangle shape. There we go. Now I was just thinking of some different ways we could make other shapes. You could also use some masking tape. Take a small piece and fold it up. Just roll it so that it creates something like this. And now I'm going to use this line to make some sprinkles as well. I'm going to use the turquoise. You might have to do it more than once to make sure that the shape is right. So I'm making sure not to make them all straight or up and down. If you were to sprinkle sprinkles onto a cupcake, they would not all be facing the same direction. So I'm turning side to side, making nice diagonal shaped sprinkles all over. There could be some closer together and some further apart. Now some of mine are actually turning out a bit more circle shaped, not circle, like an oval with just an outline rather than being filled in, but I actually kind of like it because it's creating a different, unique shape here. Great, I think that's enough sprinkles. Now the last thing we need to do is paint the background. So looking at these different colors, we have to choose a background color that is not exactly the same as anything touching the outside, but I've used all of my colors, so I'm going to mix some of these colors, so I just make something slightly different to use on the outside. I was thinking a lighter turquoise might be nice, so to make light turquoise, we're going to mix the regular one with some white and see what kind of nice shade we create. It's important to make enough paint for you to fill the whole background in. If you only make a little bit and then you need to make more, it'll be very difficult to make the exact same shade of turquoise. So make sure you make a good amount. That's a nice color. Maybe a little bit lighter, just so that it's more different. There we go. Okay, that color should work. So one thing that some of Andy Warhol's cupcakes have is a small outline around the outside. So I'm going to attempt to leave an outline of white around the outside of mine where I don't paint. So I'm not painting all the way up to the edge, but instead I'm leaving a small white border. So the first thing I'm doing is just painting this line around the outside to create a border, so I know that I'm not going to go any closer than that. We'll do the same thing on this side. And it's okay if it's not even. And if you mess up and you go too close to the cupcake, that is absolutely fine. All artists make mistakes, and it's very important as an artist to learn how to cover up your mistakes. So what I would do if I accidentally got too close is I would just paint it all the way up to the edges everywhere, and then I could go back with some white paint to create the border, or I could leave it if I just like it the way it is. It's no problem at all. Do you see there with those little spots? This is what happens when there isn't enough paint on your brush. So you just need to either flip your brush over where there's more paint on the other side, like I just did, or dip into your paint again. There we go. Now that I've got my little outline in, I don't need to be so careful when I paint. I actually will switch to a bigger brush now, so I can cover a bigger area. And the bigger brush you use, the better it will look in a big space like this, because you will avoid having lots of brush strokes, which for some pieces of art you want to see the brush strokes because it shows you what and how you've painted, but for something like this we want the color to be as even as possible. It's okay if you paint a bit over your pencil lines because you can just cut them out later, but definitely go up to the edge because you don't want to have to go back later to fill in a little spot that you missed. And there we go, an Andy Warhol styled cupcake.
Hey boys and girls, it's Megan from Art K1's here, and it's time for another brain break. I know that you guys love these. So for today's brain break, we're going to be doing another visual memory game. Basically, I'm going to be drawing a really cool, detailed picture on the board, and I want you to not draw along with me. All I want you to do right now is to watch very carefully and listen very carefully, because I'm going to be talking you through all of the details. When I'm finished, I'm going to hide the picture, and that's when I want you to draw, and you're going to see if you can copy my picture just by using your memory alone. So this kind of activity is really a lot of fun. Please don't cheat. I really want you to play along and see if you can do it just by listening to the instructions. It's a lot more fun that way, and it really tests your brain and makes sure that your brain can also get a little bit of exercise. So that's what we're going to try and do now. Okay, so as a starter, we're going to draw something that I think a lot of the boys and girls will enjoy. But as usual, I have a little joke to inspire the picture. The joke is, what do you call a sleeping dinosaur? A dinosaur! Oh, that really helps me paint a nice visual picture in my head of this little dinosaur that's going off to sleep. And that's what's inspired this picture now. And that's what we're going to try and draw. So please listen very carefully to the instructions. Remember, you're not drawing with me. We're going to wait till the end. And then you are going to draw the picture just based on your memory alone. Okay, so here we're going to draw our cute little dinosaur. And we're going to draw it nice and big on this piece of paper. So to start with, this dinosaur is lying on his back, and I want to start with his head. So we just give him a nice big head. And he's got quite a long neck. Nice long neck dinosaur. He's sleeping like a starfish actually, so one arm is going to come out this side, and then we're going to draw his big fat tummy. That's his back. He's got his other little leg lying to the side, and then his long swishy tail coming out here. Okay, his other little leg sticking out, because who doesn't like to sleep like a starfish? It's way more fun this way. His other little arm. So you can see head, nice round tummy, his long tail, 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. The legs are almost square-like or rectangular, so keep that in mind. Now, hope you're listening carefully. On each foot, I'm going to give him 3 toes. 1, 2, 3 for you. 1, 2, 3 for you. 1, 2, 3 for you. And 1, 2, 3 toes for you. Now, we're also going to draw his face. Now, of course, his eyes must be closed because he is sleeping. And we can give him 2 little nostrils, 2 little dots for those. And this dinosaur sleeps with his mouth open. Maybe he really does snore. And wouldn't be a dinosaur if we didn't put a few spikes on his head. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 5 spikes. 5 spikes on his head, and we can even do 3 spikes on his tail. Right, I also want to just decorate his tummy a little bit. So I'm just going to draw a line all the way down, swoosh, like that. And I'm going to make him a stripy tummy. Lots of stripes. Now, I'm not counting the stripes because everyone who does their dinosaur might do the stripes a little differently, but I do want to see that you remember to draw a stripy tummy for Mr. Dinosaur. Okay, so there we go. A gorgeous dinosaur, 4 feet, a nice spiky tail, 3 spikes down there, a couple of spikes, 5 spikes on the head, and he wouldn't be a snoring dinosaur if we didn't show it, hey? So we're going to draw those little zzz signs to show that he is fast asleep. Now, it's very uncomfortable to sleep without a pillow, so I think we need to give Mr. Dinosaur here a pillow to sleep on. I'm just going to put a pillow right behind his head. Oh my goodness, he looks super comfortable now. And I don't know about you, but I love to go to bed with my teddy bear because it just brings a little bit of comfort. And so we're just going to draw his little teddy bear here on the side. Nice circle basically with 2 little circle ears, and he's got 2 chunky arms in the shape of a cup actually, and a nice round tummy, and again 2 little bumpy feet. And how about we give this teddy bear a stripy tummy just like his dinosaur. Teddy bear. Alright, so we've got this cool dinosaur, this dinosaur. He's fast asleep on his pillow. We don't want to forget all of these beautiful triangular horns that he has, or spikes that he has on his head. And of course he has his teddy bear. Alright, so guys, take one last look at this picture. I'm about to take it down. I want you to really look at it, look at the details, because now you're going to use your memory to try and recall the picture. So one last look. 3, 2, 1. And boom, picture's gone. Alright guys, run and fetch yourselves a paper and a pen and let's see what you can remember. I will put the picture up again at the end of the video so that you can have a check and make sure that you remembered all of the elements. Remember, if you don't remember everything, it's not a train smash. It's going to be okay. We'll just practice a few more times, and the more you practice games like this, the better you're going to get. But really, these games are for a lot of fun and just to give your brain a little bit of a break. So you guys have 3 minutes. Please go and start your drawings. 1, 2, 3, go! Okay guys, welcome back. I hope you had a lot of fun drawing your dinosaur, and I hope that you remembered all of the elements. Have a look at your picture. Did you remember to draw the little Z's coming out of his nose or out of his face? Did you remember to make his eyes closed because he's a sleeping dinosaur? Did you draw the pillow and the spikes on the side? Shall we count them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you guys got it right, so well done. Hopefully you remembered all the little elements and the teddy bear, the little spikes, everything that we added here. So if not, why not pause the video or hide the picture again and go and try again, and maybe next time your memory will be even stronger and you'll be able to do even more. Alright, well that's it for today's brain break. Enjoy the rest of your class and the rest of your day as well. Bye guys!
So I have cut out 3 more squares of paper, the same size as my first one, and I'm using my pencil to draw out the same cupcake 3 more times. Once all 3 of them have been drawn out in pencil, I am painting them in using the same colors I had before: yellow, turquoise, pink, and white. I mixed the pink and white together to make a lighter pink to use later on, and I've mixed the white and turquoise together to make a lighter turquoise. So still using the same colors, just having a little bit of variation. So the first cupcake I'm doing now is light turquoise and the pure pink color. Making sure you get into all of those little edges nicely and carefully, changing the direction of your brush when necessary. Important to keep that brush up on its tippy toes. I tried to choose colors that are different from each other and different from the former one so that nothing will be the same. So for example, the frosting on the last cupcake was yellow with some pink on top, and then blue and white sprinkles. The cherry was pink, and the cupcake wrapper, paper, whatever you'd like to call it, was turquoise before, so the next one is pink. So making sure that each one is different in terms of color combinations, but overall the actual drawing is the same. So we try to use the colors in different areas. This one will have a yellow bottom part. We want none of them to be perfectly matching, so try to have them all different. It's your decision whether you want to paint 3 at a time the way that I'm doing now, or if you just want to continue doing 1 at a time the way we did the first one together. Either way, they will turn out exactly the same. The reason that I'm doing all of the flat colors on each cupcake 1 at a time is so that I can give them a little bit of time to dry before going back and doing the printing on top. So this one is turquoise, pink, and yellow. Going back again to make sure I get in all of those small little sections. Now using the dark turquoise. Remember what I said before, it is important to make sure that the parts that you painted last are fairly dry before moving on to new colors because you don't want them to blend into each other. So I've made sure to blow dry between each color change using a hairdryer to make sure that they are fully dry and not going to mix into each other at all. Now we're going with some of that nice lighter pink. I'm rubbing out the pencil lines a little bit just so that I can still see them faintly, but because I'm using yellow for the bottom, yellow is quite a transparent paint, and if I were to paint it right on top of my pencil lines, you would still be able to see them through, and later I would not be able to erase them after the paint has dried on top. So just preventing those pencil lines by rubbing them out. Now that I have 3 flat colors done, I'm going in with some of the sponging and the printing to add some of those fun other details. I use the sponge to add the pink on top. Then I will take the cardboard to do the printing, so the same thing that we did before. This is the piece of rolled up tape I made before that I'm using to print some sprinkles in. And using the back of the paintbrush to do some little dots. This time I chose to use the turquoise to print the lines into the bottom of the cupcake. And it's okay if they aren't perfectly even. That's what's so beautiful about printing, is they always turn out a little bit different than the last time. Using the rolled up tape to stamp on those sprinkles again. And the back of the brush to put the little dots. Now we'll do the same thing with the next cupcake. After I finish putting all the details on each one, and they're a bit more dry, then I will go back and paint the backgrounds. So using the light turquoise on top of the yellow, it's really important to think of color combinations you think would look nice. So don't just choose the first color that you see. Actually think about it, which color might look nice on top of the former color. So I thought turquoise would look very beautiful on top of yellow. So as I said on the first one, we leave a little bit of a white space around the border just to create a nice little contrast. It's also nice to keep them the same as the others. So I have left my space around all 4 of them. However, if you didn't leave a space around the first one, then do it the same on all of them. If you have any really big brushes, you can use them for the background after you do the painting around the border. As you can see, I have put a big piece of cardboard on the table where I'm working. This is something really handy to do at home as well because it'll protect your beautiful table from getting paint on it. And if you do happen to get paint on your clothes or on the table, while the paint is still wet, it is very easy to rub out of whatever it's on. Baby wipes are amazing in situations like that. I have used a baby wipe to get paint out of my clothes and my hair and everything else that paint has been in and on. So that is a handy tip if you want to have some baby wipes nearby. Otherwise, you can just use a little wet towel. You just have to be careful that you don't smudge it more. So try and get it while it's still wet. The longer it stays to dry, the harder it will be to get out. Other paints like watercolors are very easy to get out of anything as they're water-based, but acrylics are just quite tricky. Ooh, you can see my assistant on the side there cutting out some paper for me. So I've chosen background colors that are different from each other. 2 of them are actually the same light turquoise, but I thought it would look nice because that was my favorite color, so I wanted 2 of them. When I place them side by side, I'll just make sure that the turquoise ones are not next to each other, and then they still create a contrast to be across on opposite sides of the paper. Now we're just going back to this last one because I forgot to put my sprinkles on. So we'll add them now. Stamp the other ones with the tape. And there it is. Adding a little bit more texture to that one on the left. And now I will just lay down my big piece of card and place each one in a place where I think they look nice so that they're not next to ones that have the same colors. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on how to make Andy Warhol styled pop art cupcakes. Here's one more close look at it so you can see all of the details. I hope that you show me yours. If you send a photo of your finished work to clapham@artk.co.uk or tag artkclapham on Instagram or Facebook, we would love to see them and share them on our website as well. Bye!